Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers, here to talk Seahawks football and a little bit about the game a couple days ago, Keith. The shutout the Seahawks defense put on the Minnesota Vikings with a little help from the offense, but a big showing from the defense. It was pretty remarkable. Get you caught up on all of that and where we currently sit as far as the playoff seeding is concerned, and if Seattle should be in the conversation for the best team in the NFC. And it should be a fun show. Welcome in, Keith. How you doing?
I'm doing good. This was a game that ended up as a blowout and a shutout. It was kind of frustrating to watch. So yeah, I'm kind of I'm interested in hearing your take on everything, because there was a lot of frustration that came from watching that particular football game.
Especially in the first half, just watching the first, in fact, 2 drives, I think were kind of egregious that the Seahawks had. And you would have Sam Darnold drop back to pass, and there was just somebody in his lap immediately. Like, we could not figure out their defensive front to be able to block anybody with any consistency at all. Like, there would be one play out of 5 where Sam would have kind of a clean pocket, and the rest and the other 4 were just completely disrupting the timing, batting balls down, sacking him. Obviously the fumbles, which I'm a little concerned about with Sam at this point. And shutting the running game down, and nothing was working. And I was just like, man, this is just not good. We need to be able to figure this out. They did make a few adjustments at halftime. You were pretty confident that they would be able to do that. They did enough. It was still a pretty poor overall offensive performance. We were able to run the ball like 125 yards, but Sam really didn't have very much success passing the ball. And it was, if Minnesota wasn't so inept and our defense wasn't just so dominant, it would have been a game, and it shouldn't have been. I mean, we should have cleaned their clock, I think, on the offensive side. Their defense is good, but it's top 10 fringy good, like top 12. It's not, special good, especially their back end. But that defensive front, and Mike Flores, the defensive coordinator, called a great game and knew what it was going to take to disrupt the Seahawks offense, and did. Fortunately, Seattle's just that much better on defense, and we just completely cleaned their clocks. On the other side of the ball, we came up with some turnovers, 5 of them to be exact, some big plays, a pick 6, some nice sacks, and just overall the defensive performance was probably one of the top defensive performances that you'll see all year from any team.
Yeah, and then the defensive performance was outstanding. You look at some of the things, the sacks in the first half. They gave up 4 sacks in the first half. They had given up 11 sacks in 11 games coming into that. They gave up 4 in the first half. But then they kept Darnold clean in the second half. So they definitely did make the adjustments that they needed to.
Well, yes, but Sam Darnold's attempts went way down too, because they played with a big lead. They need to solve it, because it's a copycat league, and whatever they're doing now. I'm not saying that every defense can do what Minnesota does. They blitz at a very high rate, and he's a really good coordinator, and they've got the personnel to do it and execute what he wants to do. Some teams do have that capability. Some teams don't. Doesn't mean that we're going to see these looks, week after week. I'm just saying it seems like teams that do have the personnel to disrupt our timing successfully disrupt our timing. And Sam Darnold takes some sacks. And when he does, he turns the ball over. Like he turns the ball over half the time that he gets sacked. Like, and he's only had 15 sacks on the year, but he's got like 7 fumbles on those. So you just wonder like, what's going on with that? But outside of that, I thought that we ran the ball consistently, successfully, with purpose. I liked the way that they approached that. It was a real conservative game. I don't recall a pass going past like 10 yards in this game for either team. But for the Seahawks and Sam, that's kind of their bread and butter, is throwing the ball down the field and stretching the field a little bit, just getting, over the top of the linebackers. And there was none of that in this game. There was no time to. Like, I just thought, Sam did what he needed to do. He didn't throw the ball into any real bad spots. I think there was a tip ball, a couple of them, several knocked down that you wish he could figure out a way, but I'm not going to annihilate him over that. I think this was more a scheme situation, a coaching situation, and an offensive line issue rather than Darnold in this game. But I would like to see them have some consistency for a few weeks before we get to the playoffs, where you've got all 3 units of this team, the defense, the offense, the special teams units, firing on all cylinders and working together. And it's frustrating when you don't have that.
Yeah. One of the things, the Seahawks, the first couple series were frustrating. But they had a lead. They never trailed, obviously, because it was a shutout. And it just felt like they knew when they got to 10 points that there was no way Minnesota was going to reach that. And that every point beyond there was just insurance. Because how many 4th and 1s or 4th and a half a yard did they kick a field goal? They didn't even try and line up and go for it. And in those kind of plays, like, you line up and go for it. But they're just like, nope, we don't care. And this was a very conservative game plan. Run the ball.
Do you think that was the right approach? I mean, obviously, yes.
Absolutely.
It's the right approach. You win by 26 points. You shut them out. You don't take any chances at all. To me, now, and they finally did, Keith. They went for it on 4th down. They did convert it. It's kind of one of those things you wish you would try a little bit more, because, and one of the reasons why, and I think that that they said this on the broadcast, and I kind of agree with it, in that you have got to convert some of these 3rd and short and 4th and short opportunities, especially when you get into the playoffs, because other teams are going to be playing that way. And if you do not, you're going to limit your opportunities, and you need to be able to convert a high percentage of those. And there's only one way to find out if you can do it or not, and that's to do it in the regular season. And I think that I would like to see them try that a little bit more and have success at that, because you're going to need it. You're going to need that in your back pocket.
Yeah, but why are you going to put all that on tape for teams? If you've got,
come on, you know what you're going to do. I mean, teams know what you're going to do. Like they run that tush push play for, the tight end.
They've ran it
over and over and over, and that's what they've ran it
8 times. They've gotten 7 first downs on it. We know that, but they've run that. We know that they've done that. What about the other plays? Why are you burning them and putting them on tape in a game where you don't need to win easily? Win by 26
Do you agree, though, that we are going to need to kind of, figure out how to do that consistently in the playoffs?
I don't believe that this team can't do it consistently now. They chose not to in this game because who cares?
I care, Keith. I don't care. Come on.
No, I don't. You've got, if it's, 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, you've probably got 6 plays that are your go-tos to get that 1 yard. One of them we know is the tush push, but what are the other ones? I don't want to put any of those on tape. Where they line up in the tush push and they do something else, I don't want that on tape to the playoffs, unless you need it to beat the Rams, here in a couple of weeks. Leave it in your back pocket, and leave it there until you need it. You can practice.
I can understand that. I can understand that. I can understand that. But I think that you can make the argument for in the other direction too, that you want to be able to kind of figure your identity out and kind of, I don't know that you're necessarily giving away plays. These short yardage plays and, 4th and 3s that you're trying to convert in the other side of your 50-yard line. Teams run these things all the time. It's not like you haven't run these plays. It's just in this particular short yardage situation.
26-0.
Well, it wasn't 26-0, and for the vast majority of the game.
That was the game flow. There was at no point in this entire thing did it look like Minnesota had any hope whatsoever about.
Oh, I knew that when we got to 13, I knew that was over. It was like, that's it. They're not going to score 2 touchdowns on this defense unless it's some weird, crazy play.
Yeah. As it was, even with Sam Darnold turning the ball over on a fumble and giving them the ball on, what was it, the 23-yard line, they still pitched a shutout because they got him to 4th down. They went for it on 4th down, and then he couldn't take the sack, so he threw it to Ernest Jones.
A fun play.
It everywhere back to the end zone for the pick 6. It was a fun play.
If there was a single Minnesota Viking fan out there, or some sort of Seahawk and a Viking fan gal listening, I would take away this and have some solace in that Brosmer got his worst NFL game out of the way in his very first start. That was a play that he will have in his low light reel for the rest of his career. And nobody ever wants that. And it is what it is. He will learn from that, I would think, and not make that mistake again. But it was an amazing play by Lawrence to get there in the first place, and then to just kind of, he was going to get the sack, and the fling was a complete mistake. And Ernest Jones, I mean, holy cow, that guy knows where to be, knows instinctively where he's going to be.
When he was out, you could tell. Now he's back, and you can tell. He is a big cog in the machine of that defense.
Yeah, he really understands the spatial qualities of an NFL football field and where he needs to be. And, Mike Macdonald kind of praised him and said, that was a great play. One of my favorite plays I've ever seen. And I think that Ernest Jones just has a nose for the football and knows where things are going to happen and gets there instinctively before anybody else does. And he's in position to make those big plays. He's just a special player. He's not perfect, but he's perfect enough. He's perfect for this defense. And Lawrence, dude, you texted me after that play, or I think it was right after that play, that he was definitely the best offseason acquisition. I would agree with you.
I said I think I put a question mark. What is he the best offensive acquisition of the year? And you, of course, said no. Well, second to Darnold, and I'm like, have you seen Darnold play in the last 3 games?
Well, yeah, right. I think the quarterback position is just a more important position, and that's the only reason I would even have him in the conversation right now. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks have been a struggle for him, and I'd like to see that turned around. But yeah, talk about an acquisition, Keith. I mean, you go back 4 or 5 years to the Jamal Adams debacle, and even before that, there are some bad decisions and bad play from our free agent and trade acquisitions throughout John Schneider's tenure, and he's really turned it around in the last couple of years, especially with the Ernest Jones signing, the Julian Love signing, the DeMarcus Lawrence signing. I mean, there's a lot of acquisition of talent. The Williams trade. I mean, there's just a lot of great moves that this franchise has made over the last couple seasons to get this team to this moment. And sometimes you don't know exactly which player is going to be really successful. And Jeremiah earlier this season was on Seattle radio, and he was talking. They were talking about the team, and we were all in that time frame right before the season kicked off, talking about what we thought this roster was, what we were looking at as far as predictions. And you and I were on the optimistic side compared to most. Now, there were some other ones like Dan Viennes and a few other guys locally that were pretty bullish on the team and thought that the team would be, 11 wins, 12 wins. I think Dan was as high as 13. And we could see something that this team could potentially be. But Daniel Jeremiah, I thought, put it really, really well. And he said, Seattle's got a really good roster. It's solid all the way through. They've got some good players. But in order for this team to take the next step and get to where all you guys are talking about, you're going to have really good players step up and become really great players. And this roster is full of that. Like both offensively and defensively, players have turned out to be really good, solid players all the way through. And both the offense and defense, you start with Sam Darnold, better than everyone kind of was going to give him credit for. It's been a great fit in the offense. I wish things would smooth out a little bit for him, but we'll find out. Ken Walker's had a great season. Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously, has gone from pretty darn good, like the 7th or 8th, best wide receiver in the NFL to the number 1 wide receiver. And that's a big jump. That's a substantial jump. AJ Barner has just Barner's really solidified himself at tight end. Charles Cross had a good season. Abraham Lucas has been good. Gray Zabel has turned out to be one of the top 2 offensive guards in the entire NFL in his rookie season. And then on the other side, Byron Murphy went from half a sack last year and a few pressures to nearly leading the team in pressures and sharing the lead in sacks. Obviously, Leonard Williams come back and duplicate his season from a year ago. DeMarcus Lawrence turns out to be one of the best free agent signings in all of football.
Everyone was saying he was washed. Why did Seattle pay? Why did they bring him in? Why did they pay him? He's washed. He's old and he's been hurt for the last couple of years. They're going to get nothing from him. He has been an absolute monster. And he did what he did in this game in only 20 snaps. He was a game breaker, but the team was blowing out Minnesota, so they kept him on the sidelines because he's an older player. And he only played 20 snaps in this game.
That's something. And then you go to Ernest Jones, again, having a career year on a year last year where he saved the defense, having an even better, more impactful season so far this year. Drake Thomas comes out of nowhere, Keith, nowhere, and has earned every snap that he gets, and he makes big plays. He just makes big plays. And Nick Emanwari, kid drafted in the 2nd round. Sure, there's some expectations there, but also he's going to end up being a very special player for a very long time in this for this team, and he's only going to get better. He's probably on an all rookie type trajectory for a defensive player. We haven't even seen Julian Love hardly this year, but we know what he can do. Kobe Bryant, again, having a great season, very solid, going to get paid this offseason. Hopefully it's with the Seahawks, but don't know. Tariq Woolen's kind of turned his season around. And you can go on and on. Jason Myers is having a Pro Bowl level season just because of the prolific nature of our offense. He's having opportunities to score. So there's like 12 players, Keith, that I mentioned that are having career years for this team. And that's exactly what Daniel Jeremiah was talking about in the offseason right before, the first game. Who's going to step up to take it to the next level? And does this team have another level? Like, is Mike Macdonald going to be able to take this defense to the next level? He needs the players to do that. They had a few investments in free agency, and they had some draft picks, but that wasn't going to just get it done. They needed to take another step with the players they already had, and they've done that. And that's why they're 9-3. They could have been 10-2, but they're still looking at a real good opportunity here to get all the way to the Super Bowl. As good of an opportunity as the 4 other teams in the NFC that have a chance.
You think there's only 4?
It seems like there's a lot, but I would say Seattle. I would say the Rams.
Absolutely.
I would say the Chicago Bears, surprisingly, although on paper I would definitely rank them 3 or 4 on this list that I'm putting together in my head. And then I think Green Bay is still good, and I think that the Philly's still going to be there, even though I think they're diminished. But I would say it's the Rams and the Seahawks 1-2, 2-1, whichever way you want to put them, and then the other teams after that. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I was just curious because I didn't know if you were going to include the Packers because they've had a couple stinkers, but they've still managed to win a lot of games, and that defense is legit. And then I didn't know if you were going to include Philly because earlier in the year, they looked every bit like the team that was, that had represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. But the last 2 weeks have not been pretty. They've been kind of ugly. And so I was just curious where you were.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at DVOA, you go over to the AFC and you look at the Patriots. The Patriots are the worst 11-2 team ever in the history of the NFL by DVOA.
Yep.
The only other 11-2 team below 10% DVOA was the 2012 Falcons. So when push comes to shove and teams really start to shove on the Patriots in the playoffs, they're going to be exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Now they could get on a run. They're 10-2. They're 11-2. They can only play who's in front of them. But DVOA says they're the 14th ranked team in the NFL.
They are last year's Minnesota Vikings.
Bingo. Great comparison. The Bears are the worst 9-3 team ever by DVOA.
Really?
The only other 9-3 team with a negative DOA was the 2004 Falcons and the 2012 Bears. They are literally the worst 9-3 team by DVOA ranking.
I've watched the Bears play a couple of games, and I didn't see that. Now, granted, I've only watched a couple, and they've been more recent, where Caleb Williams has played well, but they did not look like the worst 9-3 team ever. Like, not at all.
Now, Seattle's defense is actually getting up there where they're one of the best DVOA ranked defenses in history, along with the Rams. The Rams are also right there, but the Seahawks are kind of in a special category, especially when you average in like EPAs, both passing and rushing EPAs. The Seahawks are way above every other team. And so it's interesting. I would say the Panthers are, they're looking to try to get in the playoffs. They're 7-6. Seattle faces them in a little bit, but they are the 5th worst 7-6 DVOA team of all time. So when you take a look at really good DVOA teams, the Indianapolis Colts are there. Everyone thought that they were, and they've lost a couple. They've lost 2 of the last 3, but they're still a really good DVOA team. The Rams and the Seahawks are there. The 49ers are top 5. Even though the 49ers have the weakest schedule. So they're a team that you can't completely dismiss. It's just one of those deals where you've still got to beat that team. And they can get in the playoffs, and you would have to face them potentially. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I got that straight off the I can't remember what the website is, Fantasy Football something. That's where they do all the DVOA rankings.
Which is weird because it used to be Football Outsiders, but Aaron Schatz left, and he was the developer of that particular metric. But yeah, he left Football Outsiders, and then the site just fell apart. And I think FTN bought it, and it's interesting.
So the Seahawks had the best defensive game of the year by DVOA against the Vikings at negative 79.1%.
Yeah. I mean,
that's even after adjusting for the fact that the Vikings offense has been bad all season. That was still the best game defensively by any team this year.
I mean, statistically, it's going to be. They only gave up 140 yards,
and 5 turnovers.
But they also inflicted 5 turnovers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, you can't.
What else are you going to do?
More. You literally can't do more.
And you would have done slightly less had your offense been prolific, in the same game. Given the fact that Seattle's offense was kind of not really statistically that much better than the Vikings offense was. They did just enough. They didn't turn the ball. They had 1 turnover. So that was the difference in the game, really. And the difference in Sam Darnold's stats between to Brosmer's stats were just 4 turnovers. I mean, literally, statistically, they were almost the same. And then we ran the ball a little bit more successfully.
Under 50, right at 50%, under 100 yards passing for Darnold, but they didn't need it. I mean, in the second half, they just ran the ball the entire half. Actually, in the first half, they ran the ball, and they played really conservatively. You look at, they had, that they had that, had the ball at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second, and they got 2 field goals out of it, 6 points. But on both of those drives, it really didn't look like there was any, hey, we need to press this, we need to push it downfield, we need to go. They're just like, nah, we're good. 3 points. Minnesota will never match us. So there was just no urgency to go push the ball down the field or do anything like that. They were happy getting their field goal and running the clock.
I'm glad they did finally score, in the fourth quarter there to kind of just really put it away with the run by Charbonnet, which I thought was a great run as well. I'm glad they put together a drive, because otherwise, I don't know that you said you didn't really feel very good at coming into the show here about the performance. It was kind of a mixed feeling, and that one, the offense, that touchdown made me feel just a little bit better about the overall game. Yeah, a shutout is a shutout. I'm going to be happy about that, but for me, I was happy overall. I thought, you run a conservative plan. You'd mentioned that's the right thing to do in this situation. I tend to agree with that, even though I argued about going for it on 4th down a couple different times. And I'm glad they were able to run the ball successfully. But if you went online, you would have thought this was a loss. because the fan base was just like ticked off that offensively we didn't do anything, and we didn't go for it on some of those opportunities, and JSN didn't get enough targets, and on and on and on. It was just a complaint fest, and I just don't understand sometimes what fans want. You just saw one of the best defensive performances of all time, at least in this franchise, and that just isn't enough. And sometimes your offense isn't going to be that great. Sometimes your offensive line is going to suck. Sometimes your running backs can't run through the hole. Sometimes your quarterback's going to throw interceptions. It's hard to have it all come together in one game. I hope that it does, and if it does happen, we've got a great opportunity down the stretch here. The cool thing is, Keith, it has happened this year. We did at one time have the number one offense in the NFL. We have at certain times in this season, especially coming down the stretch, have the number one defense in the league. So if we can kind of figure that out and try to marry those two things together, this team would be unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, any day when they get a performance from all three phases, like a true living up to your talent performance from all three phases, they will win the game. There's not a single team that's going to stand up to Seattle when Seattle has that good of where Seattle offense, defense, special teams all play well. There's no team that's going to beat Seattle.
Yeah. Give me the defense against this Viking team yesterday and the offense from the Tampa Bay game, and you put those together.
Yeah,
dude, like that would be nuts. Now, why doesn't it come together like that? I don't know. The offense seems to have lost its mojo a little bit, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what's going on. There's a confidence thing there, I think, with Sam. There's an offensive line component to this thing. Maybe it's the Sundell's out now and it's Olawatimi in there. I'm not sure what is going on, but we seem to have just lost that explosiveness that we had a little earlier. And I know that it's, game tape. Defenses are playing us a certain way, and there seems to be some success there. And it all really depends on who you line up to against as well.
Teams have adapted. Most of the beginning of the year, they were loading the box to stop the run, and JSN and Darnold were just beating them over the top. A lot of just deep passes that went great. Teams are no longer loading the box to stop the run. You look at the last 3 games, and you're seeing a lot of 2 safeties back, a lot of nickel, and teams are like, all right, so we can't let JSN beat us. And so they're bringing people, they're sending people back, and asking Seattle to run the ball. And what you're seeing is Seattle running the ball. Do they lose the explosive element when they do that? Yeah. Does it really matter that much? No, because now they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the clock. They're going to be more efficient. They're not going to be explosive, but they're going to have longer drives. And when they start doing things like that, teams are going to have to decide: do we come back up, or do we stay back?
I think in the long run, I think what you just said is really accurate. And in the long run, I think that could only help our offense, because then you can do both things. So you can adapt depending on what defenses are going to do to you, and to be able to actually run the ball, and when you need to run it, and pass when you have that opportunity to pass. That's a good thing. I think it's hard to kind of grind those things out. You mentioned it's more efficient, but yet at the same time, it doesn't look more efficient. It's harder. It's harder to move the ball, and so it's lends itself to be more frustrating. even though you're taking control of the clock, even though you're not allowing their offense to come back on the field, you're saving your defensive snaps, so that when they do come out there, they're ready to go. I like the idea of running the ball. I just don't know that we're so efficient at running the ball yet that it looks easy. It's like it's a grind. It's hard. We're not picking up enough on first and second down, so we're having these third down opportunities, and they are then blitzing Sam, and they're having some success, and so it seems a little more disjointed than it did the first half of the year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, agree. It is a little bit more disjointed. They're figuring it out. This is a team that is not as good at running the football as they want to be. They're continuing to figure that out. They continue to have someone in the middle of that offensive line that whiffs on far too many blocks. But you can see that commitment to running the ball is starting to work, because the explosive passing has caused teams, they have to back off. You can't just crowd the line and bring everybody in and have a loaded box, because Seattle will beat you. So they're having to back off, and now you're starting to see Seattle's commitment to the run starting to pay off, because now they're getting those running yards. They're starting to, especially when they run to the left. When they run to the left, they've been very effective. That's behind Cross and the rookie. So, but yeah, I mean, they need to continue to do it. You continue to punish teams for running or for dropping everybody back and playing nickel. And you're going to put them in hard spots. They're going to come up to the line, and if they're in base, you let Darnold check into a pass, and if they come out, you get out there and they've got both safeties well off the line, and out there with nickel and extra defensive backs, you let them check into a run, and you saw that a little bit in this game where they checked into runs, and for good results. So it's been an interesting last couple of weeks. I think that we're going to see this whole thing continue to evolve over the next couple of games as the Seahawks adapt to what the league has adapted to them. But it's been an interesting season, and it's that chess match. Like I said, I was like, the Seahawks will make they needed adjustments in that game, and they did. I like the coaching staff. I really do. And I think that when you have good, competent, creative coaches that can make those kind of in-game and in-season adjustments, success will come. And yes, you might have down stretches, like the Seahawks offense is having, kind of a 3-week down stretch, but I don't care. They'll be back.
I don't care either. They're 9-3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they're tied for the best record in the NFC.
Yeah, and so you're going to have a situation where the league is adapted, and now Seattle has to readapt. And when you've got good coaches that are capable of doing that, you'll see the success come back. So calm down, everybody. It's all going to be okay.
So there's a few games left. It's week 14 coming up. Game 13 overall. Atlanta Falcons on the road. Atlanta's not as good as we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. Should be a win. And then it's the rematch against the Los Angeles Rams in week 16. You win that game, Keith, and you are squarely in control of your own destiny. You lose that game and you are dependent upon other teams to dictate where you're going to be.
Yeah.
So I would rather have that first option. How about you? What do you think?
Well, obviously everyone would rather have the first option, because if you win that game, you control everything. You have the better record, you split, and it's just a matter of you keep winning, you win, And even if the Rams went out, you can still win the division. If you lose that game, now you're back down 1 to them in the standings, but really you're down 2 to them because they'll have the tiebreaker, which is the head-to-head. And so you would need to win out and have the Rams lose 2 more games.
And their record and their schedule is a little easier than ours. So we'll see.
Although we did get a favor by Carolina coming up and beating the Rams for us on Sunday.
Yeah, in fact, the 49ers lost too, right? Or, no, they won.
The 49ers easily.
Yeah, so it's good. It's looking good. It's looking good. We just need to take care of business. The Indianapolis game is shaping up to be a game as well, and that's the game after the Rams game. Mm-hmm. And then after that,
although they just lost their midseason acquisition. They traded for the Jets cornerback, and the name
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce. There you go. Yeah, they traded for Sauce.
He got a calf injury, and he's week to week, but it looks like it's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks, not back by the time the Seahawks play.
And a calf injury. That kind of the way that the injury happened, because I saw like a replay on a report on it.
It looked like an Achilles.
It looked like an Achilles, but now they're saying it's not. It's just a calf injury. But go ask Richard Sherman about that particular calf injury, because Sherman battled it, for like 6 weeks, and then his Achilles snapped.
Yeah, we shouldn't even talk about that stuff. Yeah, but. So it's this stretch run is going to be amazing. We're going to come back and later this week, and we're going to talk about that Atlanta Falcon game. You got to take care of business. Seattle's been able to do that on the road, especially. I don't have too many worries in this game if Seattle just goes out and plays its game, and we haven't had any letdowns yet. I think the real letdown of the season came in that first game against the 49ers. We should have won that game. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity here this year to really go deep in the playoffs and potentially get to that
game too.
Yeah, right. And the Rams. You could argue that you could be undefeated here, but we're not. We're 9-3. We got to just take care of business and the coach and Sam, I think, have a lot to prove in this stretch. Like, this is the type of games in December where they're the heightened importance, where they define you as a coach and as a quarterback and as a team. These are the games that matter. Everything else before this is just football. Now this is playoff football. This is where you get your seedings, how you take care of opponents. If teams fear you, or if teams think you're a pretender, it all happens in these next 5 or 6 games. So fun stuff. It
comes down, and honestly, where Seattle lies on that spectrum of being a true contender versus a paper tiger, it all depends on Sam Darnold. He goes back to how he was playing, 3 weeks ago. This team is pretty much unstoppable. If you go back to the Rams game and the 3 games since, if he continues to play like this, they're not winning a Super Bowl this year. You're not going to win with that kind of production. He's got to go back to playing like he was earlier in the year.
Regardless of how the offensive line is playing, he needs to overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Agreed.
Find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me NWC Hawk. You know where the show's at. We appreciate all of you guys listening and sharing the show with friends and family, and leaving comments and likes and all that good stuff. So we'll see you later in the week for that Falcons preview. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWChawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.